right, it is 5:30 p.m. and I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Fargo Board of Education. If you are able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move the approval of agenda human that if that's how you say it.
Do you-
All the human.
So you're moving to approve the agenda with the addendum of the HR
Yes.
capital? Okay.
Second.
All right. I think I caught moved by Neemal and seconded by Katie. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Next, we will move on to our recognition of the audience. At this time, the board will hear comments from the public. We ask that each speaker who has signed up to address the board state their name and home school district for the record. Speakers must refrain from using this forum to criticize or complain about a specific employee or student by name. Vulgar or profane language will not be tolerated. The board is interested in your comments and will listen carefully, but is not obligated to respond or debate issues in this forum. This evening, 3 speakers have signed up to address the board. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Upon conclusion of the allotted time, a chime will sound and the speaker is asked to conclude. If necessary, a final chime will sound 15 seconds later, signifying the end of the speaker's time at the podium. I will now call our first speaker to the podium, who is Devin Stachinsky.
I'm in a good mood. It's my wedding anniversary, and my wife was nice enough to let me come to the school board meeting. Something not quite so nice, having gotten a chance to go back and listen to the last governance meeting. There was parts of it that were mildly concerning, like at the 5-minute mark where it was said that these meetings are in the public but not for the public. I would think Century Code 4404, multiple parts of it, but 17 specifically would disagree with you. I thought about trying to get a bunch of people together, or at least 8 people, to satisfy Jim's comments of how many people actually watch the school board meeting, because it seemed very dismissive about those that are trying to be in tune and involved. But I figured if I would have brought 8 or 80 or 800, the result would be the same and you still wouldn't listen to me anyway. But knowing I live rent-free in his head is a bit of a small comfort of mine. Now on to the stuff for this evening. Memo 36, I'm curious as to why when you put your compliance numbers, nobody explained their rating, and every single section has please explain your rating. So I'm just curious, why these are only half done. Memo 41, I'm not even going to touch that. I don't have enough time for that. Memo 35, I'm curious if you guys are going to use that to try and satisfy Century Code 15.10935, because it doesn't quite, it doesn't satisfy all the parts of it that's requested. And I asked Anne Marie about last year's, and you guys approved about the same time, so I'm just guessing that this is supposed to satisfy that, but it doesn't have enough. And then for Memo 37, I thought you guys only had $8-ish million when you guys were all said and done with last fiscal year, But here you guys have paid all your bills and you've got $41 million in your back pocket. Now, I know some of you campaigned on school lunches for the kids, and Jim said it was $7.5 million annually. Well, that's 5 years worth of lunches right there. That's all.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Paul Moore.
I'm Paul Moore, Fargo School District, friend of Devin, one. So a question came up on my ride over here was, I was thinking about it, how does West Fargo Schools manage to spend $2,000 per student less than Fargo does? But I'll have to get back to that one. From the webpage, this was interesting. As elected servants of the district's taxpayer, one of the goals of the board is to be as transparent as about its business as possible. You took away our ability to ask questions in this forum and get a response. I don't know what it's like with the other taxpayers of the district, but I mean, I turn right around and I basically copy this into that form that says, contact the board members. So far, I figure I have at least 3 outstanding sets of questions that have not gotten a response at all. I've been, after being told personally that I would get something, even if it was, well, okay, you need to talk to this person because they're the ones who are actually going to be able to answer your question. So 0 for nothing. Report on the EL 14. What does closed mean? Adjusting the number of holidays. Will the student athletes and their staff teachers get those days off too? Does that mean that there will be conveniently placed professional holidays that are close or closed or non-student contact days? Does it mean extending the start and the end dates of the schools? Memo 35, the annual compliance report. It says you can look up the reports if you go to Fargo Public Schools Teaching and Learning Department and searching for annual compliance reports. But when I did that, the only thing I got was the copy of Memo 35 from last year. So close to the one that's from this year that if you actually hold them up to the light, one behind the other, the only thing that's different is the date. GP 1, governance commitment statement. Vision statement says, Fargo Public Schools is committed to excellence through a student-centered learning environment supported by positive collaborations with students, staff, parents, school, and community. And yet you say you will not collaborate with parents in situations involving transsexual youth. How do those things go together? Then the values says essentially the same thing. And yet then, so you go down and you rate yourself a perfect score. And I just don't understand how that can possibly be true. Not gonna make it. So the last memo 40, you changed from diversity, equity, inclusion to educational justice. And when you go to look up that, all you can find is social justice, which is the same as diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you. Our third and final speaker is Victoria.
Madam President, member of the board, and first I want to say congratulations to our new school board member. I think you're going to do wonderful. I just wanted to come up here and say thank you to the school and thank you, Missy, for your support. We did our back to school event at Jefferson Elementary, our first ever event being held. It was challenging, it was hot. We did not expect the number of people that came out, but it was blessing. It was a great collaboration between the Jefferson, and to make it clear, it was not funded by the Fargo Public School or Jefferson. So we had a private sponsors that provided that sponsorship, but it was a great event. We had a great turnout of people, and we see the community we wanted to see, and that was the goal, is to see the diverse community. And our interpreters work really hard to make sure that they interpret for families that did not speak English. So, and I cannot thank the Jefferson principal enough. She was amazing, a decision maker, and she was a hustler, okay? She tried to recruit my volunteers to come work for her. And I was like, what? And so, but they were excited to see that she see value in them and wanting them to be part of her team and to work for her. So I look forward to work with them in the future, hopefully. So with that said, I wanted to talk about the memo on 41. I just hope that the district will really be mindful as they move forward with this. Not every child can learn the way they're looking at going in this direction. That just be mindful with our special education students, that you will make sure that you take them into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to our report section. If there's anyone from the FEA present to give a report. Okay, next, superintendent report with Dr. Gandhi, or I guess administration report now.
Yeah, administration report. This will probably be the last enrollment update that we'll give, just because it is, normally we consistently track or provide an update to the board shortly after Labor Day, and then we'll kind of have the data available, but not provide it at every board meeting. So I'll hand it over to Missy Eidsness to give maybe the last enrollment update.
Yeah, so today is September 12th, and when we pull the enrollment from our live source, we're at total enrollment for the district at 11,345 students. I thought it was interesting because on August 21st, we were also at 11,345 students. And so what interesting happened is we are down 20 students from August 21st in elementary and up 20 students in secondary. So we stayed the same for that amount. So last year on this same date, we were at 11,384. So we were down 39 students from last year at this time. And then RSP had us at, and that's the prediction of 11,437. So we're down about 90 from RSP, but that's about the same amount from their kindergarten prediction. So 2 years in a row, the kindergarten prediction has been about 90 to 100 lower in Fargo. We did not see like a bounce back in first grade, in our current first grade, because now kids came back to us after trying something different. So we did meet with, and Rupak, you may have to correct me, but I think Frontline bought RSP? No, is that, I'm getting it mixed up. What's it called?
Frontline Analytics is the geocoding software that we will be using instead of Guide K-12.
Okay, thank you. So our enrollment, people that predict our enrollment, we just said, is there a way we could be more accurate with kindergarten? And they said they're gonna look into a couple things to see if they can get better numbers for us. And I really appreciated them letting us have that conversation. But we do think with 2 years in a row that we'd like to just dig into that a little bit for accuracy. Currently, our kindergarten is at 779 students. And last year at this time, we were at 851. So they're close. Our largest class is our sophomore class with 938 students. Our second largest class in the district is second grade with 929 students. Our smallest class is kindergarten with 779, followed by third grade with 810 as we go. The largest elementary is Bennett at 630, and Centennial running a close second at 616. So because we made that boundary adjustment, it does show that Bennett has gone down a little bit, but Centennial's gone up. And so our south side is still growing, and we'll have to pay attention to that as we go forward. Discovery is our largest middle school with 1,005 students, with Ben Franklin at 858 or 885, sorry, and CBE at 646. Our largest high school is Davies with 1,345. North is at 1,004. South at 907. And so that is just our update on enrollment today. And if there's any questions, Bob, I, and Rupak would be happy to answer.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Not a question, just thank you, Missy, and I'll just give a quick update on the kindergarten enrollment. We did meet with our demographers and just figure out for the last couple of years why there's been maybe a little bit off numbers in terms of kindergarten enrollment. One, our neighboring districts have also experienced the same miss projections. But secondly, the demographer was able to give us like just a little bit of insight because they said that in the various districts they work with across the nation, it's been hit or miss in terms of kindergarten enrollment. That data is being mainly based off two primary sources. One is census data, and the other is birth data. Both are not the most accurate measures, but one thing that's important to know is that when they incorporate census data for that age group, they're making a prediction based off of how many students, or census reporting is a 0 to 4 category. So there might be a lot of students that we think, you might break that down into assuming 25% of them are 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and then make your kindergarten. I am very much oversimplifying the statistical formula that they use for the projection, but just a general thought process. So he said that because that's that 4-year age gap, sometimes that kindergarten enrollment can be off, but then you might see a bigger spikes somewhere within those 4-year range.
Great. Thanks. Any other questions or comments? All right, thanks again. Next, we'll move on to our consent agenda, and I would look for a motion. Yes, Robin?
I move approval of the consent agenda with the human capital addendum.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Moved by Robin and seconded by Nikki. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Same sign. All right, thank you. Motion passes. Consent agenda is approved. We will move right along to our business section. Our first order of business comes to us through memo number 40, which is the strategic plan reapproval, and I would look to Dr. Gandhi to introduce this.
Thank you. Every year, we may make some tweaks on the strategic plan, and so we would go through a reapproval from the board. Last year was the comprehensive refresh of the strategic plan. A couple of things that we have tweaked this year, some have been dealt with just regarding as we went through one monitoring cycle, whether it's looking at specific data sets or board reporting. We made some changes based off that. Strategic Initiative 2, we made just some changes really to focus on the work that we're doing around creating a sense of belonging for our students and being comprehensive in that atmosphere. One thing I will ask the board is that after we posted the strategic plan that you're going to approve today, we recognize that in Strategic Initiative 2, there's probably a missing standard that addresses safety and emergency management protocols, which is one of the data sets that the board also wants to take a look at when we monitor that. So at the next board meeting, we will, if it's okay with the board, probably via consent agenda, add the addition of a standard that just says implement research-based safety and emergency management protocols under Strategic Initiative 2. Besides the result changing on that one to include that sense of belonging, the other big change that you will see will be under Strategic Initiative 5. We did add a 9th standard that is utilizing a special education workforce analysis model to determine special education staffing needs. That would be a product of some of the conversations that the board has had with the Fargo Education Association at negotiations, and we just thought that was appropriate work. A lot of that work is underway as well, but that was one of the agreements to kind of make sure that that is captured there, so we did include that as well. So that is it for the strategic plan reapproval, and stand for any questions.
Seth's hand up first.
Before we have any discussion, I'll move that the board approve the updated strategic plan as provided in memo number 40.
Thank you. Yes, Robin?
Can I amend your motion, please, to talk about, just to address the current proposal, knowing that it will be updated, perhaps maybe saying, I move that the board approve the current strategic plan approval, acknowledging there will be updates forthcoming. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes, is that okay?
The motion hasn't been seconded, so it can be refined right now before it is seconded. And
Okay.
you just
If
need
nobody
to
seconds
tell me
mine,
what
you
we're-
can make, you're free to make any motion that you.
Sure. Or you could amend, okay.
right now we could have a second per Seth's motion, or you could you guys could work to modify the motion of what would be seconded, because it's not seconded yet.
Before, could I ask why?
Because we are expecting an update to this, and we approve this annually. So there is an update forthcoming, and I want to make sure that we follow our procedures properly.
Yeah, so my understanding from what Dr. Gandhi has said is that at the next board meeting, through possibly the consent agenda, there's going to be an additional monitoring that relates to safety.
Would it just be more simple to just table this motion until the next meeting then?
There's no motion on the floor yet, so you could just not take any action to.
You certainly can. We'd honestly just noticed over the weekend when I was doing some alignment work with our operational plan, but we also didn't want to make that request from the administration standpoint because we knew that the special ed workforce piece was kind of talked about, and we had a time frame and talked about that at governance. So we wanted to be respectful of that conversation and said that's why we would bring it in future. But if you guys want to move it to the next meeting, absolutely. But
I think where we're at, I think we're safe that we could probably table this till the next meeting just to make sure that we just approve all amendments to it at the same time rather than doing it twice. So I'd like to move that the board table business item 7A to our next board meeting on the 26th of September.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Seth to table, seconded by Nikki. Any discussion?
Point of order.
Yes.
So do we need to table it if it hasn't received a second? Parliamentarian,
There was no second on the first motion.
correct. So we can't table a motion that's not on the floor.
You postponing action on the agenda item? Is that what you're wanting to do? So Seth is postponing action on memo number 40 until the September 26th board meeting?
Yes.
Seconded by Nikki.
Yep. Okay. Any discussion?
Okay. Curious to know, Robin, do you feel that there may be more changes forthcoming after that? Or did you just want to include this next round of actions together? Because I'm thinking Seth just wants to delay and kind of do it as all
No,
one.
I agree with Seth's action. Sorry,
Okay.
President Berkland, may I speak?
Sure. Oh, yes.
Sure, I understand I'm trying to follow procedure here. If there's
Sure.
something forthcoming, let's just postpone it. I support Seth's motion. Let's get it right the first time.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
sounds
you.
good.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments or questions, discussion? Okay, Anne Marie, I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Nelson,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Holden,
Yes.
Berkland.
Yes. Motion passes, and we will be revisiting that at our later date. Okay, moving on to 7B, which comes to us through memo number 41, the North Dakota Innovative Education Program Planning Proposal. And I'll ask Dr. Gandhi to introduce this again.
thank you. So we provided a snapshot in the board memo as well, and just wanted to provide a little bit of context. I think one of the things that our strategic plan asks us to do is to constantly look at our data and then make sure that we are adjusting our policies or practices or providing different opportunities for students for whom are further away from educational justice than other students in our system. We know that there's no two learners are the same, and that we can't create a factory model of education. So Fargo Public Schools really does have an opportunity and a vision to provide a variety of school choice options to all of the students that are enrolled within our public school district, and make sure that we can provide a variety of options from whom different learners benefit from based on their learner profile. This is the first of multiple school choice options that we're looking to create for different learners. This is there's a lot of context in the innovation waiver. So we have to provide a waiver to the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction, and there is a two-step process for that. One is a submittal of an initial waiver that we would do after this board action that allows us to begin a year of planning and research if we want to open up the school next fall. Then in March or so, we would submit another final approval that would give us the final green light. Now, if you see the waiver, you see that there is a lot of context that they are requiring, so it's a little bit of a irony, not irony, but just it's a little bit misleading because we have to provide a lot of information going into a planning year. So we based a school off of Wilder, Idaho that is provided in a case study that uses a self-directed learning academy. What they found out was that they had a 95%, their school district with about a 60% mobility rate, just because they had a lot of migrant families and the structure of time. And when assessment and content is delivered by structured time was not beneficial for their students. The program's been wildly successful by allowing a self-directed learning academy where you still are in person, you still have teachers, you still have individuals, but time is not the barrier to learning, and they created that model. We leaned on that to just have something for the baseline of this initial waiver, but really at the end of the day, the problem we're trying to solve is helping students that our current system is not benefiting. So we are using Stanford's human design process to go through a series of steps to identify what the best structure for a future school will be, and it may not look like what the case study currently provides is. We just need to get the waiver submitted. This month, we will be visiting with a variety of students and parents at various secondary schools and potentially some elementary schools as well to identify their needs, their learner profiles. We're going to start with a wide variety of group of students, but also students that have been consistently in school truant that may not be engaged in classrooms, but they're also not leaving the campus to go home because they have a sense of purpose and belonging with that school. So we know that there's something that's in our control that we can work with. So we're going to do a series of empathy interviews, then go into an ideate phase where we can come up with a series of different options as we do research with around other schools around the nation. And then we will go into a prototype and then development phase and create what we think would be a different learning opportunity that'll be structurally different than all of our schools. There is a possibility that we would explore a year-round school in that conversation as well, that would not follow the traditional calendar, but because that would be a structural difference that might be more beneficial for some students and some families. So what you are approving today is our request per DPI requirements to submit the innovation waiver and then begin that year-long planning process to explore the first of hopefully many school choice opportunities in Fargo Public Schools.
Thank you. Yes, Robin.
I move that the Fargo Board of Education approves the submission of North Dakota Innovative Education Program Planning Proposal, including Memo 41, to the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction.
I second.
Great, thank you. Moved by Robin and seconded by Nimal. And any discussion? Yes, Robin.
I appreciate the innovation. I seriously do. I think we're heading in the right direction. How do you feel about current staffing concerns and staff levels for this? And would this be held within, do you feel, one location in Fargo?
So we are very intentional in our approach, fully recognizing the fact that the district is also currently beginning a comprehensive long-range facility process. One thing that we are saying is that we know that if the school were to start next year, where it starts might not be its permanent location, because most likely we would utilize space that we currently have somewhere within our building to start the school and then go through that long-range planning process to determine what the future site of this school would be. We also recognize that normally when you start a new program or a new school, similar to what we've done at Explore Academy and other places, you start with maybe one grade level or with one subset of students, and then you staircase more as you go into expanding that model as well. So that's the kind of approach for physical location and maybe resources. Ultimately, when it comes to staffing and other pieces, if we are providing an opportunity that's based on student and parent need when we do empathy interviews for our current students, that's gonna be better for them, then while you can never say never and we'll go through the budget planning process, hopefully we will be shifting our resources versus adding more resources, whether it's staffing or other resources along the way.
Yes, Robin?
Slight follow-up. So what I'm hearing a lot from our New American community is that we are perhaps graduating people based upon Carnegie units, which is seat time, and they are not fully prepared to graduate. So could we use this model through age 21, or could we only do that through special education?
So a little bit of both. Special education is governed through federal law, IDA law. The innovation waiver will allow us to provide flexibility on several things, Carnegie units being one of them. However, I also want to be just very clear that we also have the opportunity to do some of that work within our current model too. So our legislator has passed a Learn Everywhere bill. Obviously, we have our virtual academy. We also have other opportunities without the submittal of an innovation waiver that we can also provide different learning opportunities for students in our comprehensive high schools or our current high schools. One thing that's very important to us as an administrative team is that this will not just be a school that provides a different opportunity that can be attained at our current schools, and it's not. Right? So if it's something that we can do in our current schools, then it's not really a school choice. It's just concentrating a good practice. And we don't want to do that because if we have that capacity to do that in any of our buildings, then we should be promoting that if that's better for all learners. What this school needs to be is structurally different. Structurally different means it might be a different calendar, it might be year round. It has to be something that does not follow the traditional practices if it's truly going to be a different option for students that are learning a different way.
Thank you. Yep, Katie?
I'm wondering if you could speak to the timeline a little more, I mean, if you're submitting a proposal, I'm assuming we would hear back if it's approved. It's not like an automatic thing that we would get. And then I also noticed in the memo that it says, securing funding, hiring staff, and developing the curriculum by December 2023, which is in 2.5 months. And then January 24 to March 24 is procurement of technology. So do you know when you'll have the funding if we're gonna start procuring things and hiring people?
We don't know what we don't know at this point in terms of what we will need. We are following that timeline, backwards planning from just a fall 2024 start and then going backwards through that process, knowing that we have to finalize the last approval by DPI by March. So our goal, I mean, timeline wise, honestly, is to spend the months of September and October, and I'm just looking at our project management kind of page here, is to spend the months of September and October working with different students, identifying what their needs are, doing focus groups at different buildings. We do have a team that's going to go visit several different schools as well, including the one in Wilder, Idaho, a school in Rochester, and then we might be doing some virtual visits with another school. I can't recall which one that was, but taking a look at a couple different opportunities to visit with them. Once we have that concept and we know what we want to do and we have our targeted population, we do feel pretty confident that we can put together the program because we have content, curriculum, and everything else. Technology and other pieces, if we're starting with utilizing the spaces that we have, but just providing the opportunity to learn in a different way, hopefully it wouldn't be a major, large-scale additional procurement that we have to go out and be able to do. So I do feel confident that we could do that in that January to March timeframe. Like I said before, we know our current target population is looking at middle school students that have been in school touring. once we visit with students and families and then take a look at how many students that would potentially cater, then we'd have a bigger idea to know what the scalability of this program will be down the road. But I don't expect that a lot of that major infrastructure work to be necessary for the first couple of years. It will probably be when we figure out what the long-term place and home for this school is. And I think at that point, we would probably be bringing to the board the conversation about if this is a successful model, but it is a successful model that needs to stay in isolation, then what does our investment in transportation look like? So every student in the district has that. So I think that the first year, because we're going to start smaller and there are a couple of buildings where we have space depending on the grade levels that we're looking to focus on. I think the timeline is very manageable. I think some of the work will come down the road when we figure out what's the full size of this school that we want to go to and where is that future home going to be, but that's going to be part of the long range planning process.
Yes, Nima?
Well, I mean, I guess my question is more of, is there a requirement for the student to be part of the Self-Direct Learning Academy? Because, I just want to know if there are a requirement for this. And then also too, I wanted to say I agree with what Robin said because of how short we are with teachers and things and pulling other teachers away from our districts again. I mean, it is our district too, but I'm just concerning about all that. We're short in teachers and we're trying to find teachers, and then at the same time, we're trying to pull all these teachers. And I'm not sure where we're focusing on, where are we going with this? I mean, don't get me wrong, this is an amazing program and you guys did a great job putting it together. I'm just having that concern, but if my question can be addressed, I would appreciate it because I want to know if there is a requirement that is needed for the student to enroll in this.
At this point, we can't answer that question because we haven't developed what the school is. Our goal would be that we identify the right learner profile for the students. So to go back to your point about pulling resources from our existing program, we have students that our existing system is not benefiting. And we know that this school is not going to be the solution for all students either. I think that we need to provide a variety of different options for students. One of the things I've shared with the board at our work session is that we have several members of our community, and down the road we want to present data and look at this option too, but we have several members in our community that don't work traditional hours for work. They work evening shifts, and that dynamic alone is not the most conducive dynamic when you merge that with our school setting. If a parent has, both parents are working night shifts or consistent overnights, and then they are expected to have their student in our school, right? It breaks that system for them, and then the student is unfortunately a victim of two systems that aren't merging. So I do think that we owe it to our students to provide a variety of different opportunities, and I don't view that as pulling resources from one, but I think that when you look at a trend history of data, we are a high-performing district across many, many, many different measures, but we also have several students that our system is not benefiting for, and we owe it to them to do something different and to provide different opportunities. Even if it's sometimes 10, 15, 20, 25 students, those might be 25 students are taking up a lot of resources currently in their regular system because that's not benefiting for them, right? We made that investment in the Explorer Academy and we've seen tremendous amount of successes, but we're also gonna make more improvements to the Explorer Academy as we learn and grow as we move forward as well. So I think part of our strategic plan to look at our data where it says, look at where you have disparate outcomes and you adjust your policies and your systems to be able to provide more options for students. This is kind of aligned to that work, to what we do. Our goal down the road would not to have an application process for any of the school choices that we offer. It would be similar to what we do right now with our virtual academy, to have tremendous amount of conversations with parents with all the data sets that we have that say, is this the right fit for you? And if it's not, then to have intense ongoing progress monitoring, no different than they would in a traditional school, and say, this isn't working either, what do we need to do differently? But the beauty of being able to offer school choice within a public school district is that no child would be denied admission.
Yep, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. Well, I just want to thank administration for the effort and thoughtfulness that has gone into this planning already. So with that, I think we are ready for a roll call vote.
Christensen,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Holden,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Kirkland.
Yes, the motion passes. And we will move on to section 8 of our agenda, board reports. First, what I'd like to turn to is appointing the North Dakota School Board Association Convention delegates. I believe we're all attending the North Dakota School Board Conference on the last Thursday and Friday of October. And there's a delegate meeting on, I believe generally the final session, it's the second day, so it would be a board member that that was able to attend the entire conference. And I looked for 5 volunteers. I will probably volunteer myself. So if there's anyone else, Nimal and Robin. All right, Nikki. And we could do an alternate too. So, or I think, Katie, I think were you?
Well, there's,
You don't need to. Me.
well, since there's only 6
I
of us here,
know,
we need
it's
5 and an alternate. I'll be
not
the,
the
I'll be,
night to
I'll
be-
be, I'll be the alternate.
Okay. All right.
So is that Katie for a delegate then?
Take Katie for a delegate,
Got it.
Seth as an alternate.
If you come to me at the end and say you really gotta go.
Okay.
5. Yes, you are in. All right, I think, Anne Marie, do you need anything else with that?
No, I'll work to get everybody registered and then I'll note that you 5 are the delegates.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we will move on to our committee liaison and correspondence reports. Nimal, would you like to begin?
Wonderful. Well, I have not hit the ground as I should, but I did before when the school began. But I haven't went to Lincoln yet. I think this is going to be interesting piece. And then also to September 5th, I have attended the governmental affair. And then on Friday, I attended CEA. And I think I'm good. This is the shortest one ever.
Thank you so much. All right, Seth,
I have nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
thanks. Robin?
Thank you. I attended the governance committee on August 28th, the work session on August 29th, and then the CEA committee, just like Nimal, on September 8th. As far as governmental affairs committee related reports, September 5th, we had our first formative meeting. And a couple of highlights, we are going to work on some policy statements, if you will, in 3 different areas, and that would include infrastructure, honesty in education, and supporting all students. So stay tuned for details. That would be pretty much our work plan for the year, other than monitoring interim studies. And our next meeting is October 3rd. We did establish a regular meeting time at 7:30 a.m. on the first Tuesday of every month. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin. All right, Nikki.
Thank you. August 29th, I attended our board work session. August 31st, I chaired the North Dakota School Boards Association nominating committee in anticipation of convention coming up. September 5th, I attended GAC, and September 8th, I attended CEA. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Katie.
I also attended the work session on August 29th. On August 24th, I think it was, I met with Doctors McCanna and Fremstead to learn about my leave bank liaison role. And then I also joined Tara and Dr. Fremstead when attending some staff meetings with Davie South and North, kind of at the beginning of the school year. And then I sat in on the town hall meeting that was yesterday afternoon, which I think Robin was on that too.
No,
Your name on the thing.
it was,
Okay.
I reported that I embarrassingly forgot about it.
Okay.
So, but I was not going to report that till CEA.
Pardon
Thank you
me.
for bringing it up.
Oops.
Thanks for being there, Katie.
Oh my gosh. Oh, all right. Thank you, Katie. So let's see. On August 29th, I was also at the work session that several of you have mentioned. On September 1st, I had my liaison visit to McKinley, one of my 3 liaison schools. I got to walk the building with Principal Jansen. It was on a Friday afternoon, and there was lots of kids there. It was wonderful. I'd never been in that building before, so that was lovely, and it was really great to talk with her. She has a fantastic staff and is doing a wonderful job, so it was all around a fun visit. Then I sped off to the ND United building to have President sit down with Grant from the FEA. And I think that was productive, and we're going to try to meet somewhat regularly throughout the school year. And then, last Thursday, I was in the dunk tank at the back to school bash. So perhaps we could have a motion to include that into presidential duties in the future. So, but I think that's all I have. So moving on to 9, Seth, will we have a possible executive session?
I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of negotiation strategy as permitted under North Dakota Century Code 44-04-19.1 and 15.1-16-22.
Second.
Thank you. I think I heard Nikki first. All right, moved by Seth and seconded by Nikki. Do we have any discussion?
Second by
I think I heard her first. Yeah, I think. I mean, the sound was maybe traveling a little bit faster over here. I'm sorry. Any discussion? All right. I think we're ready for a roll call vote, please, Anne Marie.
Sorry, just doing some jiggering because of absences here. Day,
Sure.
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Holden,
Yes.
Nelson,
yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Berkland.
Yes, motion passes. We will go into executive session. Can we stay in this room? Is that? Oh. Okay, then we would kindly ask that you step out All right, we are out of executive session. It is 7:23. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to affirm the next regular meeting date of the Board of Education, which is September 26th. It is 7:23 and we are adjourned.